Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contour Chemist. We are back with another giveaway and I'm gonna finish up, wasn't last week, the week before, I think. I'm gonna finish up the brush video. So I went over all of the face brushes with my entire brush collection video, but I didn't make it to the eyeshadows or eye brushes in general, the non-face brushes. Today is gonna be for my beginners. If you are new to Seint Eyeshadow, okay? Or if you're new to eyeshadow in general, this is a great video. If you're wanting to start with Seint, about kind of knowing what colors to start with, how to build your compact, and of course, all of our brushes and how I recommend using them. And of course, I've got another giveaway because it's December. So I'm going to show you my eyeshadow starter kit as well. So if you want to check it out, please keep watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for being here. All right, friends, let's go ahead and get started. I, of course, went ahead and did my full face. If you want to know what colors I'm wearing, I always put every single shade and every brush I used down in the drop box below the video so that you can always reference it. I'm going to just start off this by saying I apologize if my brain isn't working today. My daughter's been sick, and of course, what happens when your kids are sick? You catch it too. So I'm not feeling too hot. I got myself a ginormous medicine ball, and I'm hoping it'll clear the brain fog a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit better than yesterday, but my stomach keeps growling like crazy, like super loud. So if you hear it, I apologize. I haven't been super hungry. I forced myself to eat, but I don't know. It's not happy. So I apologize if you can hear that as well, or my dog that's snoring underneath my table. Okay, let's talk giveaway deets first. I know y'all want to know. So I call this my eyeshadow starter kit. I feel like this is what you need if you want to start with Seint Eyeshadows. And so I'm going to give you guys my starter kit. This is one of my favorite compacts for eyeshadows. It's technically, you can't get this at Seint Official. You have to get this at Demi Colour. I'll kind of show you in a second because I got a bunch of eyeshadows in it. And then the lo and behold, all 4 eyeshadow brushes, and I'll show you guys how to use those. And then you're gonna get your option of 6 eyeshadows to start with, any 6. And I'm gonna kind of help you make those decisions because we just got a bunch of new eyeshadows, and I'll be honest, it's a little overwhelming, especially because I always warn my clients that our eyeshadows don't all look the same swatched and on the eye and on the skin, the same as they are shown pictures online. Sometimes even swatches can be deceiving depending if it's a light or a heavy swatch. And sometimes our formulations are a little bit different, and it's hard to know what the eyeshadow is that you're getting unless you ask. So I'm going to try to organize my eyeshadows. I'm going to talk a little bit about the categories. The categories that I pretty much created my own system of categorizing all of our eyeshadows. So it helps you put together an eye look, and it helps to know what kind of shadow you're getting when you see that number. So I'm gonna go over that system with you guys, and I'm gonna include in the video some updated swatch pictures of our shadows at each category, because I haven't done that since I think we got 25 new shades. And so it is time for updated pictures. It is very cloudy and dreary here today, so I will have to do those later. So I haven't organized them all, but I'm gonna show you some examples at each category as well as we do an eyeshadow look, and I show you how to use each brush. All right, that's enough talking. I will put the details below on how to enter that giveaway. All of my giveaways for the entire month of December will end on the 31st. So you can go back, check out my Instagram account, go enter all of them. Okay, so this is the compact. I love this compact because it's one level. Now, you'll see a lot of Seint artists will recommend, if you have a multi-level compact like this, making sure all of your creams are on one level and then you just reserve one level for powders. And that's because of if this happens. I'm gonna try not to get it everywhere. Can you see how one of my favorite shadows ever, Revival, busted while I was traveling and got all over all of my shadows. So I have yet to clean that. It's on my to-do list. But that is why they recommend keeping them on the same level, so that if you do happen to drop your compact, break a shade, it's not gonna mix in with your creams. Those you'll lose a lot of product because you have to scrape off the entire top to fix it. Shadows, you can, you know, blow it off and then use our brush cleaner. Will literally get your compact looking like new again, which is awesome. But I love this size because you can have lots of options. You can easily categorize your shades, and you have a ginormous mirror. It's all about the size of the mirror, right? Like this mirror is, I think, bigger than this one, right? This one's just more narrow. I mean, this is a big mirror, okay? I love to not have to, I mean, I love our compacts, but you have to literally, unless you keep shadows on the top, which probably is a good idea. If you have them on the bottom, then you can't like dip and look. And I feel like I could do my face blindfolded, but not my eyes, okay? So eyeshadow, I feel like needs a mirror. So I love this compact and the size because I have a lot of eyeshadow options, and I like to have options even when I'm traveling, and I can easily see them and not have to open and close my compact. Okay, so this is the palette. It's so pretty. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the eyeshadow. I have gone ahead and done my face. So I did use my color corrector. That's not the right level. My color corrector, my main shade, and then I put a generous amount of vanilla dust over it. Like I just told you guys that tip, and then I didn't even do it because I have vanilla dust in with my creams. But this is my stay at home on my vanity at all times palette. I don't really travel with that. So if you travel a lot, that's a good tip. Anyway, I have oily eyelids. So I had to use my eyeshadow primer. I'd say numero uno when it comes to eyeshadow tips. If you have oily eyelids, very mature eyelids, or very hooded eyelids with a lot of texture, you're gonna be prone to creasing more so than, you know, somebody in their 20s with perfectly flat eyelids, which I wish I had. Okay, so I have a lot of texture. That is one of my most textured areas ever. And so I have to told you guys, I'm not gonna be able to talk today. The brain fog is real. Rewind. I have a lot of texture on my eyelids. I also have hooded eyelids. I also have oily eyelids. I can't do shadow without an eyeshadow primer. I will say it might take a little bit of trial and error. You might have to try more than one kind. They are not all created equal, and you also have to kind of play with the amount you use to kind of figure out what's best for your eyes. Eyes are very different for every single person. So play around with it. Don't just throw one away if you try it once and you get creasing. You might have not used enough of it. You might have used too much of it. Or maybe that one isn't good. I would say price usually does make a difference. Urban Decay is a more pricier option, but I found this one on Amazon, and I feel like for me personally, they are completely comparable, and this one's half the price. So I'll link it down below, but I would say use an eyeshadow primer for sure. Now, if you're gonna go in with or creams or just an eyeshadow primer, it doesn't matter. Either way, I always recommend using a powder afterwards, okay? Because unless you're using a cream shadow, which we do have some, I have to set those or they will still crease on me. Again, mature eye problems and oily eyelid problems. But I have a lot of clients who love those because they can just kind of throw them on. They don't crease. You don't have to set them. And I technically still have to put a powder over them to set it. So it just adds one extra step in my routine, which is why I go for just straight powders. So it depends on your eyes. Again, use what works for you. But since you're applying a powder eyeshadow, if you apply that on a cream, you'll notice it'll be really sticky and you're never going to get a good blend. If you're having issues with your eyeshadow looking patchy, not blending out, like getting like holes kind of where you're like, oh, what's going on? A lot of that has to do with making sure you have a really generous amount of powder, whatever that might be. If you use a loose powder, you can do the same thing. I'm always like very strategic about my under eyes, but when it comes to my eyelids, I swipe in, I load up the brush, and I pack that on because you can't have too much powder. See, like I'm already creasing right there. I don't know if you can see it. And I had already even powdered my eyes. So if you have eye creasing problems, load up on the powder. Okay, now I'm gonna get a nice good blend because we're gonna go powder to powder, okay? So there are many different ways you can start an eyeshadow look. Some people like to even out the eyelid. If you didn't already do that with a highlight, you can pick a color that is close to the color of your eyelid. I feel like it doesn't completely counteract those tones. Like I have very strong like veins, purple and blue tones that show through because eyelids are very thin skin, right? So if you're like me and you can see that, you really need to use something that's going to color correct that first, because this might not necessarily completely cover. But you can use something as a base to kind of even it out even further, like so. That is about the color of your eyelid. This can be used in place of, say, that Vanilla Dust powder, because you're getting a nice even base and you will get a nice even blend going off of a color like this, okay? But if you've already done that, you don't necessarily need this step. It's personal preference, what you like best. You'll see me a lot. I always have a shade that matches my eyelid in my palette. Always, always. Because I find I use this as like my magic eraser. It's similar to using like Vanilla Dust as a powder, but since it matches my skin tone, it will kind of blend out and blur edges better. You can use it to kind of tone down areas, blur out areas. I use this all the time, especially if I'm not getting a good blend. I'll just use some of this in one area and it's like, it blends out like a dream. Okay, Vanilla Dust will do, you can use it similarly, but it is a translucent powder. We do have an eyeshadow called Cupcake, which is the exact same shade as our Vanilla Dust, but not translucent. So if Vanilla Dust works really well for you, you just wish it was a little bit more opaque, I would try Cupcake. Okay, this is Chai, one of our newest shades, and it's like, it was made for my lids. I'm obsessed with it. So good. Again, that can vary on your skin tone. So if you're looking for that kind of magic eraser shade, you can always shoot me a pic and be like, which one would work for my eyes? Because there's a few that could work. Cupcake, Pup, Stay Golden, Chai. Like, it depends on how dark your skin tone is. At this point, we pretty much just have a nice base going on. Whether you used powder or a base shade, we're evened out and we're ready for eyeshadow. We're ready for that good blend. You'll see I always like to go ahead and go in with my mid-tone matte shade first. So that is a 4-5 shade. I'll put in the graphics that show the different categories of my own little made-up system to kind of help you build an eyeshadow palette. So a 4 shade is literally a shade darker than your skin tone, okay? So that when you put it on, it will add a little bit of depth and shape to your eye. It's like contour for our eye shape, all right? So this is the shade that, especially if you have hooded eyes, is super important. And I see a lot of people skip this, and I feel like if you want to take your eyeshadow to the next level and you're just throwing a shade all over the lid, which I did for years, this is what got me to the next level because I didn't realize it wasn't doing anything for my eye shape because you couldn't see it, okay? I have hooded eyes, which hooded eyes just means you can't see your full eyelid when your eyes are open. So you can tell, you can see like a tiny little sliver of mine. There's varying degrees of hoodedness. Some people you can't, this goes down to where that you can't see any of it. Some people don't have any hood whatsoever, but I find hooded eyes are actually more common than unhooded eyes. Some people at least have some degree of hoodedness, okay? So in order to see color, in order to actually open up the eyelid, you have to bring that color where you can see it. So if you're used to doing your eyes with your eyes closed, I recommend trying to open them, making sure you can see this shade. And this shade also, you'll hear it a lot of times called the transition color. It's because it also can blend out any shade on your lid. So I do like to use this shade first. Again, it's a matter of personal preference, but I like to kind of carve out my eyes and open them up and then place that color. And then I can always go back and add more to add more depth or to use it to blend out my lid shade if necessary. So I'm gonna do really basic eyes today, just picking some nice basic neutrals because I feel like if you're just starting out with our eyeshadows, stick with some neutrals. That'll work for anyone. And then if you're looking for something that really makes your eyes pop, you can email me. I have a bunch of shades. I've done a past video, eyeshadows for your eye color, and I can send you some swatch pics for that as well. Okay, so I'm going with Old Standby. This is Bubba. I'm gonna show you kind of some comparison swatches. So Bubba is a warm shade, okay? Now, a lot of people, I don't wanna say a lot of people, but some people would rather stick with a neutral, and I'd say Bubba's best friend that's neutral, about the same depth, just a cool tone is basic, okay? These are what I'd say perfectly at that 4 shade. Now you'll see in my graphics, a lot of times I'll put a 4, 5. That is what I call a shade that can be built upon, okay? So a good example of that is Oak. If you're wanting a cool shade like basic, okay? I'm gonna do a light swatch. Look at that. It's almost the same, but that was a light swatch. This is why I'm telling you guys swatches, how heavy the swatches are, make all the difference in the world, okay? Heavy swatch. Can you see how deep that can get? Okay, so a 5 shade is a deep dark shade. Those are ones we can use in the outer corner or as liner. They add a lot of depth. So you can apply a shade like this really lightly or deeper, or use it for both of those areas, okay? Which is why I really like those colors. So another favorite of mine, this one is Sedona, okay? I consider this like the 4-5 shade of Bubba, okay? And you can really build up that depth as well, okay? So this is a warm, similar in depth to Oak, but warm like Bubba, okay? So this is Bubba, Basic, Oak, and Sedona. Sedona is one of our newest shades. I'm obsessed with all of these. I feel like people tend to gravitate towards warm or cool, but I feel like it is amazing if you're building an eyeshadow kit that's going to really give you the most versatility in your looks. You need to have at least one neutral matte and one warm matte, in my opinion. I feel like that is gonna allow you to do anything and is really gonna help you blend. So if you've been following me a while, you'll notice when I do an all cool eye look, my trick is to add just a touch of warmth somewhere, and it's amazing the difference it makes in kind of adding balance and tone and helping it blend. A lot of times if I'm trying a cool look and it won't blend out, that means I need to add some warmth to it. So having a cool and warm matte allows you to really carve out your eyes in different ways, and it gives you some versatility so that you can do a cool eye look, or if you're like, oh, I need some warmth here, you're gonna have a warm tone so that you can add to it as well. So these are mattes. I recommend, especially if you have mature eyes or hooded eyes, keeping those mattes in your crease and above, okay? If you have texture on your eyes, shimmer is just going to make the texture look more apparent. For years, because I was so self-conscious about my texture on my eyelids, I wore only matte shades. This was before I became an artist and actually really learned how to do my own eyeshadow and started experimenting with it. And what I discovered is that all it is where you're placing the shimmer. As long as you are strategic in placement, you can wear shimmer eyeshadows. You just don't want to put it as a crease color. I'm telling you, it does not do anything for our eyelids when you're putting shimmers up there. Most people that can have perfectly flat, flawless eyelids and are 20 or 18. So don't compare your eyes to anyone else's. Everyone's eyes are so different. Okay, so if I was putting together 6 shades for somebody brand new, there is a certain number of each one I would kind of choose. So I'm going to kind of explain that as I go. So I would pick 2, 4, or 4 or 5 shades, okay? And that's because I really feel like it is good to have a warm and a cool tone in your arsenal so that you can adjust, and it gives you some versatility if you want to add a little warmth and do more warm, because that is the color you're really gonna see. All right, so let's actually use some of these shades so you guys can see a difference. Numero uno brush, the eyeshadow brush, okay? It used to be called the eyeshadow everything brush. This brush is pretty much, is this all we had when we started? As far as eyeshadow only, this was the only eyeshadow. We had the multitasker, but I did show you guys in my last video how much you can use this for the face and the lips and everything else. So it is a true multitasker, but this one was our original eyeshadow brush. You can technically do anything, a full eye with this brush. I'd say besides, can't really do brows or lining the eyes, but you can kind of smudge out and do a more smudged out, lived in eyeliner type look. But you can't do precision lining. Otherwise, this brush really can do it all. It's just how you use it. It isn't necessarily the easiest to do every part of eyeshadow, in my opinion. So I will show you. But this is by far the only thing I will use to do that hood, above the hood crease shape. The only thing. Because the smudge brush picks up so much product, it does lay it on much more in like one point, I guess you could say. This brush, because it's so fluffy, you can really distribute that color and really blend it out. This is made for blending. This is pretty much just a typical blending brush for eyeshadow. And then this is more of like a pencil brush, okay? So you can use this under the eyes, outer corner, along the lash line, under the brows. It's much more of a softer, it's not, I mean, it's dense, but it has some give as well. So that's what makes it still able to be used blending. And it is kind of domed there, okay? So I'm gonna kind of show you, let's just do 2 shades. So I can kind of show you ways you could use maybe a 4 and a 4 or 5 together. Okay, so let's start off with Oak. Okay, Oak is this shade. It is cool and matte. All 4 shades are mattes, no matter what. So if you see a 4 shade on a category, it's because it's made for the crease. You can obviously use it anywhere else. If you want to use it all over the lid, you totally can, but it is matte, meaning if it says 4, it means it can be used in the crease. Okay, does that make sense? If it says 5, it could be a shimmer, but a 4-5 means it is a matte because it's also a 4. Does that make sense? I feel like sometimes my own categories confuse me. So, all right, so we're just gonna kind of use just the end of the brush. We're gonna tap in, always tap off excess so that you can slowly build color. So I'm just gonna go, and I'm barely touching my eyelid. I feel like it probably is hard to translate to video sometimes, how very gently, I mean, my eyelids really move around. So you can really tell by kind of watching how very little I'm touching, and I'm using the very end of the brush. I'm not holding it down here. You really gotta lighten up your grip and let the brush do the work. Let the bristles do the work. You're not forcing this at all. You wanna be almost like feather-like, okay? Okay, so I have kind of, you can tell I've already kind of carved out that, is that brow bone kind of? What's that called? What's that called? That bone area right there. Okay, my kind of key, I know that my eyelid goes back. Granted, I've done an eye shape video. Everybody's eyes are different, but my kind of hint to myself is that I know, see, if I look down kind of, if I don't go on top of that high enough, then when my eyes are open, you can't see it because I'm technically right in that kind of hollow right now. Does that make sense? So I'm just gonna kind of keep building up the color. And slowly kind of moving it upwards. Okay, now this is the deepest and the coolest shade. So since this is the darkest, I'm gonna keep this more in the crease, which is where the shadow is the deepest, okay? Now I wanted to show you guys how you could use another shade with it, but it's completely optional, just because I have both of them here in front of me. If you were just starting out, never done this kind of technique, just pick one, okay? Don't make it more complicated. Colors, I'm just getting off excess with my eyeshadow switcher. Okay, now I'm gonna go into Bubba and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna bring that kind of up a little bit, and I'm going to blend out and soften. Sometimes when you're using a darker, cooler color, it might be a little harsh where it stops because you need to kind of blend it and blur out the edges. Does that make sense? So I'm going up above that with Bubba, okay? And then I'm also going kind of inward a little bit because you see I didn't bring oak all the way in here because I'm trying to open my eye. I'm not gonna put dark shades inside that inner corner, which would just close off my eye. Can you hear my dog? Okay, so I am bringing that up. And you'll see it doesn't look overly warm, but suddenly my eye is getting bigger, okay? Now, you can always go back and add more. In fact, I kind of recommend starting with less, doing the rest, and then seeing if you actually need more. It's easier to slowly add eyeshadow than it is to take it away. Obviously, it's hard to blend. Another option you can use, any 4 or 5 shade, is haloing. You'll see in my videos, I always do it. It's a way that I can define out my eyes and not make them look more textured or age me with harshness. So my under eyes, again, is kind of my problem area. So I feel like this, I don't know, I can't not halo. I feel like I look 10 years older without it. It somehow just kind of softens these fine lines around my eyes. So I recommend trying it if you haven't. Now, I do feel like I get a lot of questions. People are like, oh, it just doesn't look right. Usually the shade is too dark. I feel like start with a lighter shade, nothing darker than a 4, if you've never done it before and you're trying to kind of get used to it. But this brush fits under the eye so well. Okay, now you'll see how subtle that is, okay? It also kind of helps set your under eye area. So if you've used a powder, but say you put on mascara and you're having transfer there, just by putting a little bit of powder right up to the lash line, you are setting that area because it's a powder. And so I never have issues with my mascara on my bottom lashes transferring to the creams. because I have that area set and it's not like cream to, some mascaras are a lot creamier in formulation. And so if they touch another cream, they're gonna stick to it and it's gonna transfer that black under your eyes. Okay, so I did that really subtly, and then I can go and add just a touch of oak to the outer corner or outer half just to kind of really shape out my eye. Do you see that difference? I feel like my eye already looks twice as large as this one. And that's just playing with 2 shadows. Technically, you could have done with just one. It wouldn't have had as much dimension, but it's still gonna do the same effect and get that job done of kind of carving out your eye and giving it some shape. And there you go. That is the 4 or 5 shades. That is a matte. That is where I usually recommend, if I only have 1-2 minutes to do my eyes, that's all I'm gonna do, okay? I feel like this gives more of an impact than swiping a color on the lid. At least for my eye shape, it does. All right, so then say I wanna step it up one more notch. The easiest way to also open up your eyes is to highlight, okay? So I'm gonna stick with this brush, but well, you could use the multitasker. So I've shown you guys how you can use this for the face. You could use this in for the brows. I've seen people use this in for the brows. I've shown you how to use it for the lips. I'll show you how to do eyeliner with it here in a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and stick with this for brightening. Sometimes I'll use this tiny end and just kind of brighten really strategically, so that's an option as well. All right, so I'm gonna just pick up the closest one next to me. This is Drift, again, one of our new ones. It used to be called Eggnog. So a highlight shade is lighter than your skin tone and is usually, I say usually, I recommend it is shimmer, okay? And because the whole point of this shade is to brighten and lift and catch light as you move, all right? It's kind of similar to how we use an illuminator. If you don't want an eyeshadow, you can use your illuminator. So if you already have an illuminator, in fact, if you have a powder illuminator, our powders are really good at this because they are even more brightening, I would say, than our creams, because our cream illuminators are a little bit more subtle. But anything you use on your cheekbones, you could simply pop it right there and under the brow. I'm just going, that's all I'm gonna do. And this is, if I'm in a hurry, I will just carve out my crease and then brighten that inside corner. This is gonna make me look more awake, open up my eye, and then right under the highest part of my brow is going to lift my brow. Give me a little brow lift, which I could use as well. All right, so as it just kind of catches the light, highlights. I'd say one of the biggest, I don't like to say mistakes ever, but one of the biggest things I see with highlighting the brow is people just coming way too far down. So if you've been using a brush like the multitasker, this big flat end, and putting a really large area of highlight, all that does is brings attention right here, which is normally a textured area, and is gonna make you look older and is actually going to not lift, but actually drag your eyelid down, okay? So with light brings forward, like darkness makes it recede, right? So we've learned that kind of with highlight and contour. So if you concentrate that right under the brow, that area will lift. If you darken this right here, it's gonna recede. So it's gonna kind of darken that texture, that hood. It's gonna kind of push that hood back and again, open up the eye, which is our point with eyeshadow, right? Okay, so that is a 1 shade. I don't know if I said that. So the 1 shade is anything really light and bright that's going to be able to highlight. So you'll see that there's a few shades in there that might be 1 or 2 shade, a 1-2 shade. Meaning it can also be used on the lid. It's not just super bright. Now, these shades also can be used on the lid, but they make the best shades, and it's just a matter of personal preference to what kind of tone you prefer, whether you want cool, something more icy and white, or if you're like me, I like this one. I feel like it looks good on everyone's skin tone, much like Sabrina. If you want something super bright, like, yeah, this looks pink in the 10, but this is Soulmate. And it is extremely brightening. Can you see that? So when you just concentrate a small amount of it, it has that really bright effect, okay? Same goes with those with powder illuminators. You can get a similar effect like that with Photoshop. So it just is a matter of the look you want. I say you don't necessarily need a bunch of options in your palette for that. So if you want like one dedicated highlight color, I feel like that would be a good option, a one shade, or have a 1-2 shade. So something a little bit more versatile, kind of like Soulmate, that can also give some pigmentation if you want to bring it on the lid, but can also brighten at the same time if you want to use it a little bit more strategically. Isn't that not pretty? It's one of my favorites. Okay, so for that one shade, I would say your best bets are anything that fits the area you're applying it to. It's kind of just like everything else. Fit your brush to what you're using it for. So if you're really wanting a more strategic spot, if you have a lot of texture, I see a lot of younger artists that just kind of swipe in like this and brighten that entire area. I can't do that. I have a lot of texture right here. So this is why when I put it, I'm literally concentrating it right on the tear duct where I have no texture. If I get it under here, or if I put too much right there and it falls down underneath, suddenly my under eyes look 10 years older. So I've said this how many times now? 3 times now, I think, just in this video. Depends on your eyes. Just pay attention to your eyes. Don't apply it like everyone else might show. If it's not working for you, there's a reason, okay? So look at the texture of your eyes. Sometimes it takes playing around with a shade like that to kind of figure out your own eyes and be like, okay, I cannot put it on like that. I cannot put it there. That is where it looks textured. That's what's emphasizing my texture. So be strategic. It's just kind of like under eye brightener. If you have, you know, more texture here, skip that area. You don't have to put it there just because other people are. All right. Next is the fun shade. I call this fun because I feel like most people, these are the colors they're drawn to. And I oftentimes see somebody would be like, oh, I have all kinds of Seint eyeshadows. And then they name off all the colors and I'm like, but they're all the same category. These are the colors that you're drawn to. They might not be the most fun, but they are the least versatile of all the shades, in my opinion. Because really, if you do have older than 20-year-old, maybe I shouldn't say 20, maybe I should say 35. I was younger than 30 when I had texture on mine. So depending on your eyes, you might not be able to throw the shade all over the lid. You might be like me, and the only place you can use it is on the actual mobile lid. So the mobile lid is the part that when you blink actually moves, okay? That's from your lash line up to your literal crease of your eye, okay? That part is one of the only areas I recommend for mature skin besides this part and this part that you put a shimmer, okay? Because underneath the eyes can cause issues if you have more mature under eyes, and up here is definitely a no-go, okay? But the actual lid space here is where you can have fun with shimmers. And when I discovered that I can wear shimmers there, it made my eyeshadow life so much more fun. And I realized I actually look much younger utilizing shimmers in the right way than using all mattes, which I felt like made my eyes look very chalky. And I swear I can see more texture using all mattes than I can with a little bit of shimmer. Okay, So the mobile lid is where I recommend the 2 to 3 shades, okay? So like I said before, some of these 1 shades can be used as a 2 shade. A 2 shade is just a light shimmer and a 3 shade is just a medium shimmer, okay? But these are the ones that people love. I mean, these are the really fun shades, right? No matter if they're more subtle or more foiled, I call them. These are the really pretty. I mean, we have like a gazillion different colors and you can really have fun with these, okay? So these are the colors that I feel like most people are like, oh, I got like 10 of those, all right? But you still need that mid-tone matte to kind of round it out and do a full eye with, in my opinion. So, all right, now these shades do kind of vary. I feel like a 2 and 3, I sometimes will do like a lighter 2 in the inside corner and then, you know, a 3 in the middle and sometimes do a darker one on the outside. You can do anything you want. You can do a 2 all over the lid. You can do a 3 all over the lid. Shoot, you could do a 5 all over the lid if you want a really dark dramatic eye. That is a shimmer. Some of the 5s are shimmers. It's just the darker you get, the less that it will really reflect light and the less textured it will look. So even though I have a lot of texture out here, I can still use those deep, dark, shimmery shades because they don't reflect light in the same way and they don't make that area look highly textured, okay? So don't worry about those so much. You just really want to make sure this is matte and I promise you'll be golden. Now, I feel like a lot of our shimmers can vary. So I just showed you one that I consider more a foiled shade. Oh, if I can remember the name of this one. I believe it's Angel's Landing. Do you see how shimmery that is? Okay. This one has more of a, I don't know how else to call it, a more of a chunkier texture. Okay. If you are a little leery of shimmers at all, have a lot of texture on the eyes, I would avoid those shades that are really foiled. But I think you could totally pull off something with a more finely milled shimmer. Can you tell the difference in that one? So much. So I just swatched them on my towel, so hopefully you can tell difference. You see how much more of a chunkier shimmery, that is Angel's Landing. This is Bright Eyes. Much more of a finely milled shimmer versus this. And the reason why is I find this falls out, meaning you're wearing it and then it's coming, it falls out almost under the eye. It just shows so much more texture. It's just a different formulation. If you are dead set on one of those colors, I would say that is a great example to kind of use a glitter primer, something really tacky when you're applying it, and making sure you're applying it with the multitasker. So it's pressed on and it's not gonna fall out. Probably not doing your face first, doing your face last. So if it does fall out, you can use a wipe, clean up under your eye, and then do your makeup and you should be fine. I do wear them, but I have to be more careful with application. This is where you can have some fun, can really add that touch of light, and it's really gonna make your eyes pop. And you can play with color. So a fun pop of color on the lid, or if you're like me, you wanna start out with some neutrals. I feel like I always show Stardust because it is like the perfect taupe neutral that goes with any other color we make, but I'm trying to branch out. So this is Riviera. It's one of our newer colors. Also, I find it very neutral. So to me, it's more of like a champagne gold. We had a lot of really bright golds, but it was originally called gold when it was an Advent shade, but it's just a beautiful color. So this is a color you can use your finger for. I do that a lot when I want extra pigmentation. If I want a very light wash, okay, and it's not a color that's gonna fall out, you can use the edge of the eyeshadow everything brush and kind of just give a really light wash of shine. Like I love doing that with Drift or Sabrina, which is the highlight shade, and just kind of giving me just a touch of glow to the lid, and it just kind of like it just adds that touch of light, right? So pretty. But if I want more pigmentation, so I really want the color to, like the color to show, if you're using a color and it's not coming across, pick up the multitasker or the flatter end of the smudge brush. I use a lot in the same way. So it is all in pressing it on if you want more shimmer or more pigmentation. So I'm gonna use the multitasker, get some on the brush, kind of press into it, tap off excess, and then I'm gonna press on just on the lid. Okay, now since I have mature eyes, I am steering very clear of that crease, which will show more texture. But do you see, you can still wear that color. It's so pretty. So that is a beautiful neutral. If you're wanting to kind of dip your toe into a shimmer and you don't want to go with anything too crazy or bold, that color will go with anything. So I get a lot of questions over like, what eyeshadow colors will go with this and this? If you stick with a neutral, pick a neutral, it'll go with anything. I don't care if it's a cool neutral or a warm neutral, neutrals go with anything. I consider most of these kind of brownish metallics neutrals. Like they look good with anything. I promise, I've tried it. Sometimes you think a eyeshadow wouldn't go together, and just swatch them on your hand, see what they look like, and then go for it. It's so much fun to play. Don't be afraid to even like mix shades, create your own shade, or like I said, put this one maybe inner corner, and then let's say I want to use something a little bit darker or add a little bit of color. Let's see, this is You Complete Me. I don't think I ever swatched the last one, okay? This is neutral. This is much more of an actual warm tone. Can you tell? So pretty though. So say you want to use something like that. Let's see. I'll pick up the smudge brush, flat end, and I'm just going to press that on like the outer half. Okay, and so pressing motion means you'll get less fallout and you'll get more pigmentation and shimmer. You see that? And it's like a subtle difference, but if you keep your lights in the inside corner, it's gonna open up and brighten your eye. When you put darker colors in there, that's when you sometimes can close off your eye really easily. So keep those darker shades to the outer half or the outer corner, which will then give you more of that cat eye effect and kind of open up your eyes or make your eyes look larger. So we are finally to number 5. Okay, so we've done 1 highlight shade, 2 light shimmer shade, pop of color, 3 medium shimmer shade, pop of color, 4 medium mid-tone matte, 5 deep dark. Okay, so we have both shimmers and we have mattes in that deep dark shade. Like I just used this a couple weeks ago. It is shimmery, but it's also dark. It's also a pop of color. So not all the rules are perfect, but for the most part, I'm not going to put that all over my lid. Okay. It follows the rules. I'm going to keep that to the outer corner or use it as a liner. It makes an amazing liner. So 5 shades are what I use, outer corner or liner. I'm going to show you Fin. Fin is one of my all-time favorite deep dark shades, but it is also one with shimmer in it. It is a neutral. It is gorgeous. If you like bronze in any way, shape, or form, this is one of my most highly recommended shades for beginners because it is so beautiful. I love to kind of smoke it out along the lash line too, so maybe I'll show you that as well. All right, so now we're gonna go to outer corner. This brush you can use in the outer corner, and for a long time when we didn't have the other brushes, I used this as my outer corner application. But I do find it much harder than this brush. So when we got the smudge brush, this was a game changer for me. So if you struggle with that outer V and getting it to blend and for it to look good, just try this brush. I promise it makes it so easy. So it's got a more flat end, which I usually use this to either press on color like you saw, or to blend out this outer corner shade like after I do it. I also showed this in the face video for nose contour. It's an awesome nose contour brush. So I am going to use the dome end, and this is my favorite for outer corner and fin. And I'm going to close my eyes and just kind of go right to that edge and then go and tap. This used to be called the blend and tap, and I thought it was like the most perfect name ever because that's literally what it does. You just blend and tap, and it blends it, and you tap it on, and it blends it as you tap, and that's all I do is I move back and forth in this outer V from my lash line up to where I stop, which is pretty much where my crease starts, and then into the crease a little, okay? So if you don't know, you want to kind of stay in this general vicinity. So from nose, edge of eye, edge, like tail of brow, and you don't want to really go farther than that, but you can always clean it up with your cream foundation if you need to. But see how it is a shimmer, yet it's still giving me depth, and it's not looking crazy textured because it's got depth to it. But this one I love because it's got that gold shimmer. Oh, it's so pretty. But it's still super neutral, and I don't look like I have a crazy amount of eye makeup on, even for the daily, even doing the full 5 shades. Did I do all 5? Yeah, I did 5 shades. The color has a lot to do with how dramatic it looks, obviously. And then I feel like how you finish the eye with liner does as well. Okay, the last brush that I didn't mention yet is the line brush. So this is the one that has the angle on one end, the angled brush that is like really microfine and really detailed. And then it's got the spoolie to blend out. So this is the only brush I ever use on my brows. I already did them with my eyeshadow, my Trust eyeshadow. But then you can also use it for our Black Friday eyeliner if you want more of a strategic line. Okay, and then I'll show you how you can use the other brushes as well. But let's go ahead and just do a base of Black Friday at the base of the lashes. So Black Friday is our cream eyeliner. It's a little bit different than a lot of eyeliners though, so I like to kind of like give people a heads up. Like you will see that most of my eyeliner hasn't been dipped into yet because it comes almost like, well, not completely dry, but it comes almost like with a film over the top layer. I recommend pouncing in, not swiping in, and pouncing into one specific spot so you really can get that color on the brush. Now, the key is not swiping. So if you go in and you just draw a line, that one actually wasn't too bad, but it will kind of skip and it will kind of do a very, almost like faint line, okay? I want depth at my base of my lashes. So what I do is I recommend stamping it. And I work in very small sections. So I stamp the outer corner and then I dip back in. And I just kind of move around like along the lash line until I've done my entire lashes. Okay, it doesn't take long, but look at that depth. Okay, now like I said 100 times before, have oily eyelids, okay? And I wanna make sure that lasts all day. So I'm gonna set it. So it's not waterproof to where, I mean, I feel like it's hard to even find an eyeliner on the market that never budges, never like transfers, nothing. But this does if I do this method. So all I have to do is set it with a powder. So it's just kind of like my face. I put creams on. If I really want it to set and not budge, I just put a powder over it and it sets it. So I'm gonna go ahead and use Kohl eyeshadow, which isn't technically black. It's like a dark charcoal, but very cool, and will still kind of keep that depth, but just kind of smudge it out a little. I can use this brush and do the same method and dip it in and press it on over it. Or now that I've got sparkles all over my multitasker brush, I can use the multitasker and do it along the lash line as well. So all you have to do is kind of dip in on one edge of the brush and then just kind of press it over it. So this will give you more of that kind of lived in, soft eyeliner look, which is my favorite. If you want more of that precise line, stick with the line brush. If you want an even more smudged out line, then you go with this small end, which I do this a lot, but it's gonna smudge it out even more. All right, so there we go. You can, if you want to add more drama, like we've already put, what did we put? We put Bubba, a little bit of oak. Okay, if you want to add a little bit more drama, I like to add that 5 shade in the outer corner. My favorite for that is definitely that multitasker. So again, I'm just gonna take a little bit and add that kind of drama right there and bring it up, okay? Also, you could have just used this over the lash line. It's gonna be a little bit more subtle because it's got that shimmer in it. It's not as that deep dark matte, but again, it is a look that I use. I use that a lot as well along my lash line. All right, so we have one of the one shades, okay? So I would recommend, if I had to pick 6 to start off with, which I feel like gives you some versatility and yet a great starting off with package, like in my getting started kit, I would pick a 1 shade, okay? 1 highlight shade, something light and bright that you can brighten with, okay? I would pick 2 mid-tone mattes, so something warm, something dark. This could be used as both. This could be used to warm up any look, but you could use these kind of interchangeably as well. So 2 of the 4 to 5 shades. I would pick, where's my other one? I'd pick this would be classified as a 2 shade, okay? You technically could probably even use this as a 1, to be honest. I feel like it would brighten enough. It would probably be a little bit more subtle than these, but it would still catch the light. But anyway, a 2 shade and then a 3 shade, or two shades, or 2 3 shades, or whatever. But 2 shimmery fun shades. So pop of color, maybe a neutral, to give you a little bit of versatility, because you got to think you can mix and match all of these and get a different amount of looks. So you could do cool, all more of a cool look. You could do more all of a warm look and pair these together, or do a little bit of cool and warm. Like, the possibilities with just 6 colors are a lot, right? And then lastly, a deep dark shade. So whether you want a little bit of a shimmer or you want more of a matte, so that you can use that outer corner, or you could use it as liner, you could use it as your brow color. Again, it's up to you, but I would say 1 deep dark shade will give you a lot of versatility, so you could use it for both liner and outer corner. I feel like I should play hopscotch. So those were the 6 I used. That's kind of that is a nice neutral palette. I feel like you still got some color in there. You could go more neutral. You could go a lot more colorful. The more neutrals you stick to, obviously, the easier they are to mix and match, and then throw in, start buying those fun colors to add in to your look for, as you want as well. So we've got our 4 eyeshadow brushes. Okay, so the eyeshadow brush, definitely that crease brush, that under the eye halo brush. You could use it on the side to do that, to do the lid shade. You could use a small end on the outer corner, eyeliner, smudge it out. Inner corner, underbrow. It's hard to remember all these things. Smudge brush, so lid, blending, outer corner, nose contour. The line brush is definitely brow and liner. And then the multitasker, the heavy hitter. So this is definitely the brush if you're wanting to pack on any color. I would say only pick up this brush. This one packs on color unlike any other. If you're actually gonna use like something like the glitter primer or anything like that. You can line your eyes, you can brighten, you can use it under the brows, liner, smudge out colors. I use this to smudge out anything, or even smudging out eyeliner as well. All right, friends, there you go. That is the finished look. I did my other eye. So if you want to check out the giveaway, see the drop box below. I always recommend, like in a palette like this, lining up your categories so that way you can easily drop it in next to it. And that way you can look down and be like, all right, I'm gonna use this color as my highlight. I'm gonna use this color, and you can easily pick and choose from the different categories of your shadows if they're in category order to create new looks every day. So you don't have to wear the same eyeshadow look more than one day in a row. At least I don't. It is rare that I wear the same color more than once. All right, and then the eyeshadow brushes as well. So if you know anyone who you think would love this eyeshadow giveaway, make sure you, I don't know if you can tag here on YouTube, but go over to Instagram. I will post this giveaway over there as well, and you can tag your friends who might be interested in winning this eyeshadow starter bundle. I hope this video and the swatch pictures are helpful in you picking out your new favorite shade to add to your collection or building your own collection. If you need more help with your eyeshadows or with Seint Foundation, I can color match you. My color match request is also in the link in the drop box below the video. I would be happy to help you out with that as well. And thank you for dealing with me and my head cold, and happy holidays. Thank you guys for being here. Love you. Bye.